Imagine waking up to the peaceful hum of your neighborhood, everything calm and normal until the moment your life is turned upside down. It was just another ordinary Tuesday morning for Emily. She was in the garden, crouched by the roses, dressed in a white shirt, dirt on her cheek, and hair tied back, doing what she loved. That was when she noticed the notice. A neon red slip of paper taped to our fence, glaring with bold letters screaming a violation. The fence was too tall. The flag display was unapproved. The fines were escalating. The warning clear: fix it within 72 hours or else. Emily, never one to let things slide, read it twice and then pulled out her phone. "We're not dealing with this blindly," she muttered to herself. She had been a teacher long enough to know that documentation was key. You argue later, but you document first. 15 years of marriage to me, a Navy man, had taught her that same lesson. Evidence keeps bullies honest. She was still in the middle of filming the notice when they arrived. Two men, both in tactical vests, swaggering across the lawn as if they were clearing a combat zone. The first, Vince, was built like a nightclub bouncer but was visibly sweating through his vest. The second, Tony, had muscles but no discipline. His fake badge hung crooked, as though even the metal was embarrassed to be there. "Ma'am, stop recording enforcement action immediately," Vince barked. His voice, though commanding in tone, was more reminiscent of a mall cop than someone with real authority. Emily didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She kept her phone steady, her voice calm as she replied, "This is my property. You're on camera." That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Tony's jaw tightened. His fist clenched. He took 2 steps forward, then without warning, swung. The punch landed with a sickening crack, like a gunshot that echoed down the cul-de-sac. Emily's head snapped to the side, her phone spinning into the grass. She stumbled, blood blooming at the corner of her mouth, but she didn't scream. She didn't cry. Her eyes went wide with shock. Who expects to get punched over a fence notice? The neighborhood froze. Curtains twitched. Mrs. Rodriguez's garden hose dropped from her hand. Somewhere, a dog barked and stopped mid-howl. Everyone heard it. Everyone knew something had crossed the line. Something snapped inside me. I had seen war. I had seen chaos. But I had never seen my wife hurt like that. Fury built inside me, white-hot and unrelenting, but steady. I didn't shout. I didn't lunge at them. I just walked out onto the porch. The door slammed behind me, and that sound alone was enough to turn their heads. I wasn't in uniform anymore, just an old Marine Corps t-shirt and jeans. But posture speaks louder than clothes. I stepped onto the lawn, shoulders square, breathing steady. "I'm a Navy SEAL," I said, flat and calm. Not bragging, just stating the facts. "You just assaulted my wife." Vince sneered. "Bad decision," he muttered. But I saw it. The flicker of doubt in his eyes. Tony hesitated too, fists still clenched, wavering. "Stand down," I said, my voice cold, final. I had used this voice before on men armed with rifles. The tone that made grown men freeze. "Hands where I can see them." Last warning. But instead of surrender, Vince charged. Full force. No strategy. No control, just a brute's raw power. He came at me like a linebacker, but years of training made the move automatic. I pivoted, stepping left as he thundered past me, missing by miles. His own momentum carried him forward, and he tumbled, boots catching on the step. His face collided with the porch riser with a sickening thud, followed by a howl of pain. Blood started pouring from his nose, soaking his vest and pooling in the grass beneath him. Tony, seeing his partner down, went wild. He started swinging punches, wild haymakers, telegraphing every move like a kid in a schoolyard fight. I ducked, sidestepped, and then watched gravity do its job. He toppled into the sprinkler system, a jet of water smacking his jaw sideways with a sharp crack. His groan was garbled, slurred, the words spilling out like mashed-up vowels, drool mixing with water as he lay sprawled out. In less than 30 seconds, Both men were down, bloodied and defeated. Emily picked up her phone. It was cracked, but still recording. The lens caught everything: the swing, the punch, the blood, the struggle. The video was undeniable proof of their assault. Emily's voice was shaky, but her words were steady. "That's my wife. Stronger than most men I've fought beside." The whole neighborhood was wide awake now. Agnes from across the street peeked out from behind her lace curtains, iPad in hand, filming as if her life depended on it. Carl from next door stood by his car, wrench in hand, staring in disbelief. Mrs. Rodriguez, still frozen with her hose, couldn't tear her eyes away. And no one moved to help the enforcers. No one wanted to side with the men who had just punched a teacher on her own lawn. But then something else happened. Vince's phone lay in the grass, still glowing. A message popped up on the cracked screen. "Boss lady, use force if needed." My eyes narrowed. 2 minutes before the assault. It wasn't a coincidence. Someone had ordered this. Emily's fingers brushed mine, her voice trembling. "That's our first lead." I nodded, and for the first time since the punch landed, a cold smile spread across my face. This wasn't about a fence violation anymore. This was war. As sirens approached, the whole neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. The paramedics arrived first, strapping Vince to a stretcher while he wailed about his broken nose. Tony, still drooling and incoherent, was helped into an ambulance. Real police cruisers arrived next, flashing blue and red lights that bathed the lawns in color. Officers stepped out, real law enforcement this time. They took one look at Emily's swollen cheek, and it was clear, this wasn't just a case of mistaken identity. These men weren't law enforcement. They were fakes. That's when Ray, an ex-cop from 2 houses down, walked across the lawn. He took one look at the situation, and his eyes locked onto the men on the ground. "These idiots leave more evidence than a bank robber with a hangover," he muttered, grabbing Vince's phone. The text on the cracked screen made his eyes narrow. "This is bad. Real bad," he said. "You know who's behind this, right? Jennifer Allen, the HOA president. The woman who'd been issuing fines for months, making petty rules to control everything and everyone in the neighborhood. It wasn't just about a fence. It was about power." Ray explained that she had been using a private group to enforce her will. These compliance enforcers were just hired muscle. The whole thing was more like organized crime than a neighborhood association. Jennifer Allen was running a racket. As we pieced the story together, a new truth began to emerge. Jennifer had been orchestrating this from the start. She was using people's debts, personal struggles, and fears to manipulate them into compliance. When she couldn't get what she wanted through fines, she used force. When that didn't work, she made threats. And it was just the beginning. Months later, we stood in a packed courtroom. Jennifer's empire was crumbling. Ray presented evidence, photographs, recordings, and texts that exposed everything. The neighborhood was in shock. Some of them had been living under her thumb for years, but now they saw the truth. The judge sentenced Jennifer Allen to probation, community service, and a ban from any future HOA leadership. The weight lifted from the neighborhood as we realized we had won. Jennifer's reign was over. But even as she was escorted away in handcuffs, her words echoed in the courtroom. "This isn't over," she hissed. Phase 3 was just the beginning, and as I stood there, looking around at the faces of my neighbors, I knew she wasn't bluffing. The battle was over, but the war, that might have just begun. The next day, a new family moved into Jennifer's house. Their setup was strange: surveillance cameras, a bumper sticker that read, "Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted." And I knew, deep down, peace in this neighborhood was temporary. Whatever Jennifer had started, it wasn't finished. But we would be ready. Because no one was going to control our neighborhood again.